Hey guys, it's Matt here again. I'm going to squeeze another video, possibly 2 in before June. I like to do 8 a month, and I've already done my 8, so this is like a bonus show. It's going to be on the Los Angeles band Spirit, that psychedelic group with Jay Ferguson and Randy California in the 60s and the 70s. I'm going to go through those 2 decades, actually. I'm going to touch upon the solo stuff, but I sure as hell don't have every single Jay Ferguson album or Firefall record or whatever. But, I think I had everything that Randy California did with Spirit and the Captain Copter album. So, anyways, that's what the subject of today's show is going to be. I'm also going to show you guys a new poster on, it's not new to me, but new for this show. That is the Jeff Beck group. I don't know if you can read it, but Spirit is one of the bands there. So I do have Spirit represented on a poster. Okay, Spirit. 1968. This is the remix, the stereo remix on CD. This is my favorite Spirit album. This is a classic. I know a lot of people go with Sardonicus, but I like this one just a bit more. This has, the whole record in the stereo, and then bonus tracks. Another version of Elijah, If I Had a Woman, Veruska. Anyways, decent. I actually like the alternate version of Elijah a lot. But cut for cut, this is Jay Ferguson's album. He wrote most of the songs. Randy only wrote Taurus, which you know from the Led Zeppelin lawsuit. But, this is fantastic. Fresh Garbage, Uncle Jack, Mechanical World, Taurus, Girl in Your Eye, Straight Arrow, Topanga Windows, Gramophone Man, Water Woman, Great Canyon Fire in general. I think that they all wrote that one. Elijah. Yeah, those are all great songs. So it's like psychedelic, it's jazzy. One of the great albums that come out of LA in the or even California in the late 60s. Now, this is the Steve Hoffman audio fidelity version. It's the true LP stereo mix, which again, this is a remix, but you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference. But if you're going to be a purist about it, this is how I recommend that you listen to it. All right, 1969. God, I can never remember whether this is out in 68 or 69, but I'm gonna say 69. The Family That Plays Together is Spirit's second album. It's kind of similar to the first one. I Got a Line on You is their only top 40 hit. It Shall Be, Poor Richard, Silky Sam, Drunkard, Darling If, It's All the Same, Jewish Dream Within a Dream. That's one of those songs that John Savage said was one of the great psychedelic songs of all time back in the 90s. It's on his list. She Smiles, Aren't You Glad? Then a bunch of bonus tracks. Again, almost as strong as the first one. Some of the songs are a bit more meandering. It's not quite as immediate. It doesn't pack quite as much of a punch. This is another remix. All of these SBM, Super Mastered, Sony Legacy CDs were remixes, I think. But this one is for sure. So, before audio fidelity went to kaput, Steve Hoffman also did the original LP mix of The Family That Plays Together. All right, with the same bonus tracks, I think. So, if you're looking for the original LP mix, it's there. But it is also on the It Shall Be, the Ode recordings from 68 to 71. The original stereo LP mix of Spirit's second album is on here, as well as a mono mix of the first album. Now, is it true mono? I never quite got to the bottom of that. I don't think it is, and I'll tell you why. I have heard that the mono LP of Spirit in 68 in the US was true mono, but in the UK, it's a stereo, fold. Cherry Red, that's a UK or a European, I think it's British label. I'm betting that the mono mix of the first album on here is a fold, but you know, doesn't sound bad anyway. All right, so there you go. This is 5 CDs. I might be returning to this in this show, but if you just want their first 5 albums, and the Model Shop. This is a good time to talk about the Model Shop. The Model Shop is a movie, Jacques Demy that came out in '69, which is a lot of shots of Gary Lockwood, one of the astronauts in 2001, driving around LA. Spirit did the soundtrack for that album. Here's an old Twilight Time, which is a defunct, Blu-ray reissue label, who did a good-looking transfer of this movie. Anouk Aimee is in there too, and Spirit is in the movie too. They're rehearsing in a home in LA, and the Lockwood character goes to see them, and he's friends, I guess, with Jay Ferguson, and all the band members are called out by their names, so it's Spirit, and Jay gets to talk to Gary Lockwood for a few minutes, so anyways, it's a bit slow, but I like movies like this, counterculture type films from the late 60s. So anyways, Spirit did the soundtrack. That's the Blu-ray, and the album at the time was never released, the soundtrack album, because the film didn't do that well at the box office, but it's on here. It is on disc 2. All right, so the Model Shop, don't know if you guys can see that, but all the music that they made for that soundtrack is on here. All right, so I couldn't find my CD of Clear, but this is the album cover. This is one of the discs in the It Shall Be box set. This is disc 2 with the Model Shop and the album Clear. So there you go. Anyways, that's a good album too. I don't quite think it's as good as the first 2, but it's still good enough. As everyone knows, the 4 Spirit albums to own are the first 4. All right, so Clear is no exception. It firmly belongs in that category. Love Dark Eyed Woman. Apple Orchard's good. So Little Time to Fly. These are all good songs. Groundhog. I'm not going to read them because, they don't play these songs on the radio. You either know this album or you don't. You can look up the songs online. Clear, a good album, but maybe the least of the first 4. All right, now their most popular record, 12 Dreams of Dr. Sardonicus. This is an old silver disc from Mobile Fidelity. I know it's the original LP mix. This is another classic, folks. Prelude, Going Into Nothing to Hide, is one of their great numbers. Nature's Way is practically Randy's signature song because he re-recorded it enough after that. Animal Zoo is wonderful. Love Has Found a Way. Why Can't I Be Free? Mr. Skin. Space Child, When I Touch You. Street Worm. Life Has Just Begun. Morning Will Come. And Soldier. Another close to 5-star album. Like I said, I do prefer the first album better, but most folks are going to go for Sardonicus. Folks. Okay, after that, the band splinters. They're not getting along, internal factions. I think Jay once said, he was like a rock and roll guy, and he breaks down each member. I can't remember what he said Randy was. And then there was a jazz guy and, whatever. But they just were, coming at each other from different points of view. So Feedback comes out in '72. It is pretty much everyone's least favorite Spirit album. Without Jay, without Randy, it's hardly even a Spirit album. But, you got Ed on here still, and you got Mark Andys and John Locke, and it kind of sounds like... I forget who's doing the vocals on this album, but I just played this the other day to refresh my memory, and it's not bad. Something like Tranca's Fog Out sounds like it could have been on an earlier Spirit album because it's instrumental, but any of the other songs that have vocals, you can tell it's not the Spirit that we know. But it's not terrible either. Okay, so once Spirit is defunct in the early 70s, it's like you're either going to follow Randy or you're going to follow Jay. or you're going to follow both, you know. Randy does the Captain Copter and the Fabulous Twirly Birds record, which there's a certain cult around here. I like the album. It's not a classic. There's some good songs on here. He plays a lot of guitar, which, you know, Randy can sound very much like Jimi Hendrix. And of course, they had that history together. They knew each other in New York when Randy was just a teenager. I think he was a teenager when Spirit formed. Hendrix used to give him guitar lessons. And the story goes that Jimmy wanted Randy to play with Jimmy in his band in New York before he went to England with Chas Chandler to form the Experience. So, you know, that's the story. And certainly Randy can sound like Hendrix. So it's a pretty good record. It's a better album than Feedback. Captain Copter and the Fabulous Twirly Birds. All right. Now, after this, Randy and Ed Cassidy, the drummer, the bald drummer who was Ed's father-in-law, decide to, you know, do this project called Potato Land, where, you know, it's like a side one, at least, of the original album as it was going to be, because it was never released in the 70s, was going to be like the concept LP of Randy and Ed driving along on the freeway, and they get off at Potato Land where all these people are vegetables. I guess that's the analogy there. And, you know, they get involved in whatever various adventures. It was never released at the time, but some of the songs are damn good. This album was released in the 80s. It's always been credited to Spirit, but it's really just Randy and Ed. The Adventures of Captain Copter, Commander Cassidy in Potato Land. So Randy is still using the Captain Copter moniker. You can't see the songs back there, but it was good. Now, he had, at the time that this came out in the early 80s, I was in high school, there was some modern music recorded by Randy and Ed, I assume, for this, which kind of sounds like disco. Obviously, it wasn't, recorded back in the 70s, but it doesn't ruin the album for me. Years later, in the early 2000s, this more comprehensive original Potato Land double disc was released, having all of the recordings from an acetate that were going to be on the album in the 70s, as well as, bonus tracks. Fisher Eye Road, Nature's Thing. Yeah, remember I said that he recorded Nature's Way, Nature's Dream, My Friend Is Good, Giant Potatoes, Lonely Potato Land. I can't remember. Oh, you know what? It's Turn to the Right, which is a really good smoking rock song. But there's other ones too. This was definitive, and if you wanted to get into the project, the Potato Land project. But now I don't have it because I already have the album twice. There is a 4-disc box set of the complete Potato Land, which I just imagine has everything that's on here. And then I understand it's some poorly recorded live material, but I might just still get it anyway. Because I do like that whole project. It's interesting. That's where he was going to go with Spirit, but it was not released at the time. So let's get out of Randy for a second. Go to Jay Ferguson. Here are the first two JoJo Gunn LPs. This is an out-of-print Rhino handmade disc, but it's not terribly expensive, I don't think. The first two albums, JoJo Gunn and Bite Down Hard. The first album's not bad. It's, I told you earlier that Jay was the rocker, although you'd think that Randy would be the rocker, right? These albums are pretty, this album itself is pretty good. It's kind of dumbed down rock. It's not as, cool sounding, or certainly no jazzy aspects like a good Spirit album. But I like it. The second one, Bite Down Hard, it's just okay. It just kind of takes the silly lyrics and, of the first album, but doesn't come up with the material. Jay likes it though, because he writes the liner notes on here. And JoJo Gunn went on to have more albums than this. These are the only 2 albums I've ever bought. Indeed, the only ones I've ever heard. So I can't recommend anything else to you. I do enjoy the first album though, JoJo Gunn. And since I own no Jay Ferguson solo records, I might as well just tell you about him right now. He had a bunch of albums in the 70s and the 80s, including the hit Thunder Island, or Fire Island, down on whatever it was. It was in the late 70s. Used to hear it on the radio all the time. And, you know, I mean, I understand from those who have heard those records, it's less rockin' than JoJo Gunn. It's just kind of, you know, commercialized rock / pop music of that era. All right. I should be interested enough to buy one of those albums, but I'm not, obviously. And while we're still dealing with solo Spirit stuff in the 70s, of course, there's Firefall, who also had a whole slew of albums. I'm not going to buy them. I can listen to this one. You know, I can get into this one, but it's not, you know. Who was in this? Is Mark Andes, and then his brother was also in the band. His brother used to be in JoJo Gunn. I can't remember who else is in here, but they do a good version of It Doesn't Matter, the Manassas tune. Love Isn't All, Living Ain't Living. What's the big hit? Oh yeah, You Are the Woman. That was as ubiquitous in the late 70s as the Jay Ferguson solo hit. It's not a bad album if you like country rock, which I have a soft spot for. It's as good in its own way as the first JoJo Gunn album, just very different sounding. All right. Okay, so we're going to go back to Randy now and Spirit for the rest of this video. Where is my? I had everything in order. Okay, here we go. This is the Spirit of 76 album, which came out in 75, is the best Spirit album after Sardonicus. All right? It was a double LP, you know, weird sounding. It's just pretty much, you know, Randy and Ed, and he's playing with some guys. I don't remember if he has any other members of Spirit. I don't think he does on this album, but it's good. You know, he hadn't done like a major project or released a group of songs since the Potato Land thing of a few years prior to this. So he had a stockpile of good material. If you haven't heard this record, get it. If all you have is the first four, make this your next purchase. If you want to get the Captain Copter album, I actually think I might like this better than Captain Copter. All right. After that, in 76, we have Son of Spirit. Now, Son of Spirit is pretty good. It's more or less kind of similar to Spirit of 76, but the songs aren't quite as good, but there are some good tracks. Then he gets some of the guys back with him for Farther Along, but I don't necessarily know that I like Farther Along any more than Son of Spirit. By this point, we are cherry picking these Spirit albums for good material, and there is good material on all these albums. None of these suck. The worst one, as I told you, is Feedback. And that's not a terrible album either. It just suffers because it's got no Randy or Jay. All right? This comes in a little twofer, this BGO, right? Yeah, BGO. I recommend it. It's not expensive, you know? Pick it up if you're interested. But, God, I put things down. I can't find them. Get this first. Get Spirit of 76 first. Okay, the last album I'm going to be dealing with today usually gets negative reviews when I read about it online, but this was the first Spirit album that I heard after the first four. I heard this before I heard Spirit of 76. There's a whole lot of Star Trek references and, you know, spoken dialogue. I understand it's from one episode, or mostly from one episode, which I liked at the time because I was a Star Trek guy. So I like future games. This came out in 77. I don't know, again, who's left in the band by now. I think it's just Randy. You know, I mean, I don't even know. I mean, Ed always seemed like he was loyal, so, but I'm not positive. Oh, look, this is just a CDR. I don't even have this on CD, so I can't look at the line notes and see who's playing on here. But I like the album. Look at that, 22 cuts. Wonder if that's all on the original album or some of those are bonus cuts. But it's consistent, as is their entire 60s, 70s, discography. There's not a bad album that I just showed you, unless Feedback counts, and it might. So if you're not hip to Spirit or Randy California, you should be. You know, I mean, this is great music to come from Southern California, which was not played on the radio. Randy eventually died in Hawaii. He lived there for a long time. I think he drowned trying to save his son in the ocean. It was a sad thing. But he was a hot guitar player, good songwriter, and as weird and out there as he could get, he always could come up with the goods. You know, I mean, you take the Weakest Spirit album that he's a part of here, and there's 3 or 4 really choice cuts. So, okay, Matt, unearthing another 60s, 70s psychedelic band for you. If you're unhip to them, please check them out. Leave a comment. I don't ask that you guys subscribe, but I ask that you leave a comment. All right, Matt, until next time, bye-bye.